right, stand by. Hey everybody, welcome back to our weekly podcast. My name is Patrick Tan, General Counsel for Chain Argos. With me, as usual, every week, our CEO and Chief Data Scientist, John Ryder. John, thanks for being with us, and thanks for broadcasting to us from the bunker where John is currently holed up.
There you go.
This week we got three topics again for you. No bonus content, but it's stuff that I think I would really enjoy asking and picking your brain about, John. One of them is yield basis. Second one is audits. Audits is something I really enjoy because I just don't know what the point of it is, but I'm really curious to hear more. And then Paradex and the kind of attacks that we've spoken about on many episodes of this podcast. Um, but we're getting ahead of ourselves. Tell me a little bit about yield basis. What exactly is this about?
Okay, so this is a curve add-on. So curve
Okay.
is a DEX of sorts, an AMM scheme. And the idea behind yield basis, the name does not suggest this at all, is that it's a way to avoid impermanent loss, I guess
Ah,
through yield on trading basis. I'm not really sure. So, okay, it's presented as a solution to impermanent loss. Already that term should get your ears perked up because
I mean,
that doesn't seem like a
it doesn't seem like a thing, but I'm open to being told otherwise.
I mean, yeah, risk transfer requires uh, the gain and loss to be transferred. That's what risk transfer is. So it
Yeah.
would be surprising. So roughly speaking, this scheme is you deposit 100 of some unit,
Okay.
something, and then and there's some of this uses flash loans and is internal. So when it sounds like you're spending the same dollar twice, that's because on flash loans you can kind of do that for a while, right? Um,
Okay.
so you use that 100 to borrow another 100 of stable coins. Curve
Okay.
has provided a special type of stable coin with a credit line to facilitate that lending.
Okay.
Then you LP the original plus the stable coins, and the LP tokens then represent $200 worth of value, right? Because you've LP'd both sides.
Yeah.
Um, and then as you trade, you rebalance the position between the two such that no loss occurs. Um, because the value can go up and down, you delever, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you always okay. So okay. Um, so that it seems obviously complicated.
It is.
Uh,
It is
right.
complicated. It doesn't
And
seem. It is.
plus there's leverage, which usually is not a way of eliminating downside. It may be a way of increasing upside, but it's usually not a
That's
way of eliminating
right.
downside. So I think I found this interesting because it reminds me very much of a very famous paper from 35 years ago. This is a Peter Carr paper from 1990 called the Stop Loss Start Gain Paradox. So this is a great
It's a great,
old
great
classic
title.
financial engineering. It's a great title and it's a wonderful paper. So everyone's familiar with the Black-Scholes formula as a
Yeah.
thing for pricing options and how it's sort of related to physics and the heat equation and some fine. Okay, so this paper starts from a completely different perspective, which is say I have an option, a call option, and as long as the price is below the strike price, I have no position in the stock. And as soon as the price crosses the strike price on the way up, I buy the stock.
Okay.
And then if it crosses the strike price on the way back down, I sell the stock back for cash. So you have a stop loss or a start gain. That's where that name comes from.
Hmm.
Ignoring transaction costs, ignoring dividends, ignoring
Yeah. Yeah.
slippage, ignoring interest, whatever. That should work fine, right?
Sounds logical. Yeah.
It's not crazy, right? And you look at the Black-Scholes formula and realize these things are not the same. So either we're doing something different, we're hiding something from ourselves, we're confused. So what these guys did is they sat down and they wrote down that trading strategy. And instead of just, when we say no slippage, no
Yeah.
transaction costs, no whatever, no bid offer, those are casual words. They write
Okay.
it down and they take the limit as the size of everything goes to zero. So they do the calculus, right? They do the math. Um, and it turns out if you do the math on that basic trading strategy, you take the limit as all those things go to zero. What you get is exactly the Black-Scholes formula, right? So the observation is as the price is going up or going down, slippage is not your problem. Problem is the price moves
Yeah.
across back and forth. So, you could say, oh, well, I'm going to buy when I reach the price, not when I cross it. No, 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 no. Take the limit as the time steps go to zero,
Yeah.
right? You still move however much you move. There are still losses that leak in that process that are not brokerage, they're not transaction fees, they're not
Yeah.
gas, they're not bid offer. They're
Okay.
the losses that naturally emerge in that trading strategy.
Let
Um,
me let me just pause there for a minute because being completely unsophisticated and only perhaps understanding maybe like 15% of what you just said. would this be because the price doesn't actually move in a linear fashion and you have like some kind of oscillation around the thresholds that you're getting things
There's
done?
lots of possible whatever. Yeah, that's
I
one
see.
possible explanation. I mean, the simple. So if you remember back to pre-calculus or calculus or whatever, secondary school math,
I must have
and you
missed
learn,
that class.
right, but you learn how to take limits. You remember
Yeah.
the thing about learning to take limits, and you have a limit where x goes to zero, and x is on the bottom of the thing, and then something's on the top,
Oh
and you
yeah.
still
Yeah, yeah,
get it,
yeah.
still get an answer somehow because
Yeah.
it's not substitute for zero, it's
Yeah.
take the limit, right? So when you're saying, is it because the prices move in some fashion? They move in some fashion. You have to specify a dynamics, whatever. Um, if you specify very, very specific dynamics, you can eliminate this problem, but you have to specify very, very specific weird dynamics. Um, yeah, generically under standard sort of diffusion process, whatever dynamics, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Think about it as each move is
Yeah.
of some size, and there's some
Okay.
distribution of sizes. And unless that size lands exactly on the border every time, you have to have lost some money.
Yeah.
And you can take the limit as the number of those losses goes to zero, but as the number goes to zero, sorry, as the size of each loss goes to zero, the number of those losses goes up because it'll wiggle back and forth more often. That's and what you get out of that process is the Black-Scholes formula, right? So it's the
Yeah.
same system. And of course, impermanent loss, well, we also know that if you look at the payoff on a Uniswap LP position, the value of that is just a bunch of vanilla options. It's all the same framework,
Yeah.
right? So this won't work, right?
Okay.
And the idea here, presumably, if they know that it won't work in the sense we just described, is
Yeah.
it, well, we'll accrue a bunch of fees anyway, so the fees will cover the loss. Look, people argue the Uniswap LPing thing works because the fees cover the option premium. I mean, that may be the case. I can't help you with that, right?
Well,
Uh,
that doesn't that kind of depend on the fee the fee token that
yeah,
you receive,
yeah,
like, and
the
it
whole, yeah,
assumes
yeah.
that it either maintains the price that you entered in or increases thereafter.
Yes, yes.
Well,
Yeah,
I
so
mean, possible.
yeah, I found this interesting because there is some math in the documentation for this. There's not a lot of math. The Peter Carr paper has you have to be able to do whatever stochastic calculus, standard financial engineering math, but this is from 1990. Like if you can do modern options math, you can follow that paper. It's taught in most. Yeah, so uh, I suspect that at least some of the people involved are capable of understanding that this is known to not work for 30, well, 36 years, probably longer because it would have been draft format earlier than that. Um, but
Would this be one of those situations where there is a well-known, proven thing out there that doesn't work, and then but if we slap blockchain on it, maybe it'll be different? Is that one of these
uh,
things?
I mean, curve is a strange thing to start with, so I don't know what to tell you. Curve is based on the idea that if you suppress volatility for long enough, it'll be fine. And very occasionally it explodes.
Well, that's sort of what happened to LTCM as well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, look, fair enough. It was this one was just interesting because it's you can see how, and we'll come to this in a second on Paradox, I guess, how complexity goes up and up and up, and it doesn't actually get any better. It just gets messier.
And is it fair to say that just for the perhaps not the mathematically inclined who are tuning in, myself included, um that there is a non-zero chance that people who think they're going into this thing with the assumption that it's some kind of, silver bullet for managing your risk are likely to get kind of completely cleaned out and not fully understand or appreciate why that happened?
I mean, I think it's probably fair to say that every impermanent loss insurance solution will eventually explode, right?
I've often been very tickled and fascinated at the same time by this whole impermanent loss. The whole terminology to me is just so crazy, and it's only
Yeah.
something that could exist in this ecosystem because you tell anybody else on the street, like, the value of your real estate just fell, but don't worry, that's an impermanent loss. Okay,
It is a term that belies the sort of, it's not just willful blindness. It's trying really hard. Like you're gouging your own eyes out. It's really,
yeah,
really aggressive. Yeah.
it's yeah, it's not food that's been tainted. It's just that your stomach can't accept the bacteria. Okay, sure. Let's go with that, you know. But
Okay.
let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk about audits. Because this one I found a little bit amusing. Which is, well, tell me a little bit about audits because
Okay.
you did a little piece on Blockhead, which I enjoyed very much.
Yeah, so there were hacks on a couple of audited protocols recently, and whatever. This is not about criticizing auditors, the rest of it. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, of
and
course
sort
not.
of that got me thinking to go ahead and just read, randomly select some large projects and read the audits. And I went through a bunch of these audits. Let me read here the 8 findings from a an audit I found. Um, Second, let me get this up in front of me. So these are the 8 findings in an audit for a real project. I'm not going to say which project it is.
Yeah, yeah, of
It's
course not. We
actually
don't want to
it's
get sued.
named. It's named. Well, no, it's in a PDF.
I
So
know, I know.
eight issues. The first of them was a legitimate programming mistake that got fixed.
Okay,
Okay, fine.
fair.
So 12.5% are okay. The second point was that the protocol is not trustless, which is part of the design of the protocol. I'm not sure that qualifies as an audit point. The
Okay.
third one was at a thing called the fake recharge attack. It's an attack that applies to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, could also apply to this project.
Is that something like
Okay.
re-entrancy?
Yeah, it's another sort of generic form of attack. Sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Um, so the fourth one was the RPC servers, by the way, related to the trustlessness thing, right? The
Yeah, yeah.
RPC servers use HTTP rather than HTTPS, except that these are not things processing secret information. So, like if you have a read-only website, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's okay. So now we're 1 for 4 on legit
Okay.
issues.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 5 was that quantum computing poses a risk to Ethereum.
Oh, come on.
Number 6,
Oh.
and in fact, instead of summarizing number 6, I'm going to quote
All
number
right.
6.
Yeah.
EVM smart contracts are susceptible to various attack vectors due to immutable code deployment and complex interactions, potentially leading to fund theft.
Yeah. Okay. That's thank you very much for
Okay.
that, Captain
So yeah,
Obvious.
now we're 1 for 6. Right.
Yeah.
So the seventh one is the sequencer design is subject to MEV. So the not being trustless is part of it having a monopoly sequencer.
Yeah, of
Like,
course.
okay. And then number 8 is that the code quality could be improved.
Fair.
So again, I'm not trying to pick on this specific project or auditor,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
clearly, I suspect whoever wrote that knew that only one of the 8 was really a legit project specific issue. Pointing out that it's not trustless is worth doing. If it says
Yeah,
it's
well,
trustless,
yeah,
that's not
sure.
exactly the situation, whatever. So you have to assume that there was some pressure to come up with more audit points.
Yeah, I mean, because you got to
I
justify the fee.
guess.
This is
I
why, you know,
maybe.
well, I mean, you think about it this way, right? These consulting firms, like they charge you a couple $100,000. You come up with like a 500 slides or something like that, and most of them are repetition of the previous point. I mean, it's a thing.
But that's different than saying, one of the risks is that your code might have bugs in a code audit.
Yeah, that's not helpful.
Yeah, I mean that's that. So, while I agree with you that maybe like the quantum computing thing, it's they're not wrong.
It's
I
like,
mean, they're not exactly on
determining if an
topic, but
aircraft is airworthy and saying that the engines might fail.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
okay.
so when you say that it's for padding out the audit fees, I maybe, but I don't think that the programmers reading this think it's worth paying more money for that. Um, so I give another example of an audit of a larger, higher profile, older, whatever thing. So the first thing to say about this project is that there was an audit in 2022
Okay.
that found almost 200 real issues,
Oh,
most
okay.
of which were fixed. Some were
Oh, well, there
some
you
of the
go.
dodgy.
That's pretty
Now,
good.
some of them were similar to the dodgy stuff above, and they were just acknowledged, but whatever. Okay, but more recent audits, one of them um, highlights that there is centralization risk for some of the trusted entities and roles within the system. Okay. And
Mm,
another one notes that if any of the stable coins that they depend on depegs, there might be a loss. And the solution they propose is to introduce a chain link oracle and an off switch. So, and I'm happy with the way I phrased this. So rather than imploding with the value crashing, the protocol will halt with the value crashing. I mean, that whole exercise, just I don't know who was paying for that audit. Like, what's the
Wow.
purpose of that audit? And then in a really beautiful one is a project where the only issue identified in one audit is that the initial token distribution is completely centralized. And the solution is to put the distribution plan on a website and then say that they'll use a multi-sig. And the auditor's response is that this strategy has indeed reduced the risk, but it's crucial to note it has not completely eliminated it. Now, I, again, I'm not making this is not about people responding to whatever incentives they have, but these are primarily projects financed by investors, and those investors cannot think that that's a good use of the money in terms of improving security. Now, paying for the audit in the first place may very well be a good use of the money, right?
Yeah.
Um, the one that found 200 bugs, which were fixed, whatever. Also, I don't think that a lot of potential users are going to read it and think, "Oh, great, you've mitigated the centralization risk by putting the token distribution on a website." Like, I, I, I'm not sure what the purpose of any of that is.
Well, there are two ways to look at it, I guess. I mean, if the purpose of having an audit is just to say that we've had an audit, then maybe.
But
But
then one out of those 8 points would have been sufficient.
well, people want
I
to
mean, I
think that
agree that a
they're
blank audit return is probably concerning for some people, certainly for a new project. Although for a seasoned project, it should be okay, right?
yeah,
If you're a
yeah,
seasoned
yeah. If
project
it,
and
if
the
it's been
audit,
around for a while, maybe,
yeah. But like
but
if you find a legitimate issue, you don't need seven. I, I, I
well, I mean,
now
maybe they
maybe their
charge by
subcontract.
the word count. So
I wonder if the audit firms are actually subcontracting these, and those guys are paid by the hour, by the issue, or something. Right.
well, I
Because if you
mean,
think of the way
yeah,
bug bounties work, so this is
yeah.
a vaguely related. So
Right, 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 right.
you know what CVEs are?
No,
So
I
the
do not.
critical vulnerability. You've seen this in security
Oh, okay,
stuff.
okay, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Zero day what CVEs. So the CVE system, and you can find complaints from well-respected software engineers all over YouTube about the CVE system being abused. The Linux folks have complained about CVEs being abused for years
Hmm.
because people will find issues that are not
Yeah,
really issues
yeah,
and try to get them assigned very high vulnerability ratings because they get a promotion, they get a
yeah,
bonus, they
yeah,
can get
yeah,
a
yeah,
job.
yeah, yeah.
It's
I
totally going
understand.
right.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
lots of them are complete garbage. And then there are government mandates for certain pieces of software to respond to all the CVEs and track their. You can see how Linux might have a mandate from whatever government. So I suspect that some of this is actually that system where people who are not directly parties to the audit contract are beneficiaries of putting basically bullshit in there for some reason. In the
I
same way
see.
that the CVA database is being hacked by people, the system is being hacked by people, right? To stick stuff in that doesn't really belong there. They're not real vulnerabilities. Um, right? There were cases from years ago where people were finding vulnerabilities in architectures that, you know, hadn't had any hardware produced for 10 years, right? Where the number of existing uses in the world was probably zero and was certainly nothing beyond hobbyists. They're just not, oh, we found a critical vulnerability in a Silicon graphics machine from 1987. That's a made up example, but stuff that, or yeah. So I suspect some of this is related to that. I don't know how that whole system works, um, but yeah, some of these are
That
really
would be a logical
comical, and
explanation. Yeah, that would be.
yeah,
I can
maybe,
accept that
but
as a
I'm not
logical
really sure.
explanation. Like
I mean, I hope the
otherwise,
answer is not that.
I mean,
Sorry.
otherwise, why even do it?
I just hope the answer isn't that there are investors or exchanges out there that insist on non-empty audit results to list or invest in projects because they think an empty audit is garbage. I just hope that it's not pressure from people that should know better to come up with some of these things because quantum computing is a risk and smart contracts can be hacked. I
I
mean,
mean,
you're not
not untrue,
wrong, but
not
like,
untrue.
yeah. But I mean, we was just discussing this, with somebody else. Uh, I don't think, other than maybe some Japanese insurance companies, I don't think a lot of people put as a risk factor that, if an earthquake destroys all of our factories, you might go out of business. That is an issue for certain insurance companies, right? But other
Yeah.
than that, like a catastrophic storm wipes out the Midwest, and Archer Daniels Midland has a problem. I don't even know how much farming they do in the U.S. anymore. Whatever, but people don't necessarily put that kind of crazy stuff out there. Anyway,
Okay. Um. Well. we'll find out, I guess, eventually, or maybe not. I don't know. Finally, let's just wrap up with Paradex. We talked
Ah,
about the potential for this kind of thing to happen on previous episodes of the podcast, but I'll let you do the honors because you're the one who brought it up.
so we talked about this with respect to Hyperliquid and Aster, where the team has control over user assets because they can expropriate user assets for themselves through some unilateral controls they have. And in some cases, the attack we described had them essentially shutting off external access and then monkeying around with the system to take all the user assets out. Right. So generically, you can think of Hyperliquid as a thing on the other side of a smart contract on Arbitrum that you stick USDC in, and then it's a black box that you trade on. And they could cut off everybody else's access to that black box, shove the prices around until all the collateral belongs to them, and then withdraw the USDC. Like very, very stylistically. You can see
Yeah,
how that would
yeah,
work.
I can see
Right.
that. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened with Paradex, which is another decentralized exchange, is that I believe we get the exact quote that they gave here. Second. Um, a database upgrade corrupted some funding data in the decentralized exchange. So what they did
Huh.
is they
Huh.
cut off everybody's access. They monkeyed around with the data incorrectly. That caused some people to lose some money. So they blocked everybody's access, deleted some trades, reorganized it, and gave them their money back. Is that any different than what I just described before?
No, not. I
I mean,
mean,
certainly in legal terms, it's not, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I think it would be hard to try and convince a jury that that's somehow different. Yeah.
One guy has control, but one guy doesn't, right? It's hard.
Yeah,
It'd be hard to convince.
it's a bit. I mean, I'm sure Saul Goodman can make that
You
argument,
know,
but it's a little bit of a
could you
stretch.
could you perform this attack? Well, no, we would never perform that attack. Could you perform this attack? Oh, morally, I would. Could you perform? Yeah, of course I could perform this attack.
Yeah, well,
Right.
and I think they may not characterize it as an attack, but yes.
I don't think Jack Nicholson will still be around by the time they're making these movies. I don't know if he's retired yet, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. But
Yeah, I thought that was funny because like a week or two after we published that, someone did the attack accidentally and then gave people their money back. But control is not,
well, if it's an accident, could you call it an attack? Nah.
ah, but because they could do it by accident means they could have done it on purpose, which means they have
Oh yeah,
control of the system.
absolutely. I mean, this doesn't go down to intent.
Yeah, yeah.
Where-
Yeah,
yeah.
so yeah, that's actually a very good way of saying it. In some sense, a lot of these control person type things are strict liability offenses. You
Yep.
don't have to have wanted control. The question is whether or not you have control. And
Uh,
if you tried not to have control, except your maintenance procedures meant that you always had control, then that's going to count as control.
and if you segue this to the Clarity Act that somehow has made its way through the Senate, that is not going to end well for a lot of these things. It somehow made its way to the Senate, but the Dems are kind of pushing back, so it may
Well,
not make it all the way.
it's still kicking around in the
Yeah,
Senate.
it's still
It's not,
kicking
yeah.
around. But let's assume for argument's sake that somehow this thing makes it through and it ends up on in the Oval Office for signing. Um, then all of this stuff is going to not go very well because these are clear evidences of a lack of
I
decentralization.
mean, if a database upgrade can change the behavior of the trading system, whether or not you have a governance token doesn't matter. You
Oh, it
just
doesn't
have
matter at that stage.
control.
No, because you just
Yeah,
straight up have control. And
yeah.
the
So
last
yeah,
time
they're
I
all
checked,
gonna.
but I'm not a lawyer or anything, at least that's what they tell me. But, the last time I checked that if you have any kind of control, then it can't be decentralized, even in the most simplest basis form of that understanding of that what that term means. This is not
Well,
like, you know, the
in a miracle
bouillabaisse
of
was
lawyering, right? They've taken to calling it a non-decentralized protocol, um, which we could just call a centralized protocol, right?
oh well, that has implications. We don't use that word anymore.
We use the word non-decentralized instead, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's right. We don't use that word
So
anymore. It's their word, so we can't use that word.
we can have like the CME launching a Me Too campaign that's not well received, I suppose. That's not a joke,
No,
right?
I know, but this is the world we live in right now. All right. And on that note, thanks for tuning in. We kept it nice and short for you this week's podcast, as opposed to last week's monster one, which we really enjoyed making for you. So we hope you guys enjoyed this content as much as we enjoy putting it out there. And if till we see you again next week, ta ta.